Hey everybody, happy New Year's Eve. Wow, can you believe it? Hey, there's three people here already. Welcome, and I know what you want to talk about, so let's get right to it. First of all, in the National Football League, there are 8 head coaching vacancies. We have the Bucks, the Browns, the Packers, the Broncos, the Bengals, the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Cardinals. And of all of them, let's go over who was fired. First, I'll say hello. Hey, Jordan, Scott, how are you? Hey, Bob Ivan, good morning. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to those of other people who have joined in but haven't typed anything. It's going to be a glorious 2019. It's been an interesting 2018. But let's go through. First of all, the Buccaneers fired Dirk Carter after his second consecutive 5-11 season. The Cleveland Browns actually fired coaches twice. They fired Hugh Jackson and then Gregg Williams, the interim head coach. And then the Green Bay Packers have fired Mike McCarthy. The Denver Broncos fired Van Joseph. The Cincinnati Bengals fired Marvin Lewis. The Miami Dolphins fired Adam Gase. The New York Jets fired Todd Bowles. And the St. Louis Cardinals fired Steve Wilkes. Now, let's go through the 32 Assassin. How you doing? Yeah, I completely agree. And then on top of that, the Oakland Raiders hired Mike Mayock as general manager, even though Mayock has had less experience than, say, Louis Riddick, who is an ESPN analyst and who basically worked his way up through the player personnel ranks in the NFL and arguably should be the top run candidate for the Oakland Raiders head coaching, the Oakland Raiders general manager position. But there's no word or evidence that Riddick was even considered. Just that the Rooney Rule was followed. And yet, when you say, who did you talk to, you don't get an answer from anybody. I'm going to say straight out what the problem is, okay? The problem is very deep in our society, and it's not just among someone who's white. It's also among those of us who are black, and just in society in general. And it's the idea that if you're black, you don't have the right answer all the time. You're not the authority or the expert. Or as when I worked for the mayor of Oakland, Elihu Harris, he would say, the ideology is the white man's ice is colder. In other words, if you have two people selling ice, you assume that the person who's white sells the colder ice because they're white, okay? It's stupid, but that's a lot of what is at play here, and it's not doing anyone any good. It's not making the teams look as if they're hip to the fact that there are a lot of really overly qualified African-American people in different walks of life out there. It's making them look bad, and it's not helping the people who are really qualified, who are African-American, to be in the positions that they so rightfully deserve within the league, other than running back coach, okay? So it's a gigantic problem. And for those of you who might think, well, what about me? I've said this before, and I'm white. What does that mean for me? I'm going to tell you something. I said it last night, and I'll say it again. Make sure you have a diverse group of friends, because if you are viewed as a person who has a diverse group of friends and lets everybody be who they are, then you know what? You're going to soar regardless. The race will not be a factor for you. I'm going to give you a name, a specific name of a person I'm talking about, and that's Chris Spielman, the general manager for the Vikings. Chris Spielman, I met at the last NFL annual meeting. Chris Spielman is a man I would walk through a wall for, okay? His family is diverse. He has a specific ethic around it. We talked about it for a long time, and he's a beautiful man inside and out from my experience with Chris Spielman, all right? So when I think of the model that I think, if I'm saying, hey, look, if you're concerned as a young white person with the messages, saying, well, you know what, follow a guy like Chris Spielman, because he is a modern example of the best in American culture, all right? And as far as I'm concerned, people like Chris Spielman are way not part of the problem. The problem is, in point of fact, to a degree, intergenerational. And much of society is watching this play out, and they're going, God, what's going on here? You know? So I'm going to give you Todd Bowles as an example. Todd Bowles was the coach of the Jets universally respected, loved by everybody, even on the way out the door. And yeah, I saw this coming when the Jets sent Teddy Bridgewater, who really should have started. Okay, they sent Teddy Bridgewater packing to go to New Orleans to back up Drew Brees, when you didn't have to be a genius to figure out that Teddy Bridgewater had what it took to march the Jets to a winning record and into the playoff picture. But instead, they decided, I got an argument with NFL analyst Brian Baldinger about this. He's like, he's ready now. I said, no, he's not ready. And Sam Darnold had the good fortune of taking a brand new game plan into a Monday Night Football game against the Detroit Lions and performing exceptional, even though he threw a early pick six that kind of made you go, oh, come on, right? But after that, once they developed a book on the young Sam Darnold, forget it. The Jets were losing. A veteran like Teddy Bridgewater understands how to adjust the game plan. He's played deep against these defenses before. He knows what to do, okay? So I said right there, I said, you know what? This is what they're going to do. They're going to put Darnold in as a starter. The Jets are going to lose. They're going to blame Todd Bowles and fire him. And that's exactly what they did. I called this preseason. Okay? So, and it's right there on my videos. So, Rob Iman says, I think Bridgewater will go to Jacksonville this offseason. I hope he goes to a place where he can start. But my point is, there's this mentality. The league is afraid of becoming the NBA. They're afraid of being thought of as too black. You can see that by the league's actions. And yet, we're in the middle of a society which, frankly speaking, doesn't care. All right? It really doesn't care. And that's the beauty of how the society is evolving. All right? Look at the commercials today and how beautiful the diversity is among people and how wonderful and talented everybody is, regardless of where they come from or their lifestyle choices. All right, the NFL must, for its future, embrace that. Now you would say, "What are you talking about, Zinni?" They set, they're back to starting with ratings and everything else. Yeah, that's true for now. I'm not saying the NFL's ratings will suffer, but I'm saying that they will easily be overtaken or to be overtaken by a competing sport that really gets society in a way the NFL doesn't. Okay? So I'll read your comments here. Dre Perkins, Dre says, well, with you saying that, do you see how the Raiders are switching their organization? If I understand your question correctly, I see it. I'm acquainted with Mike Mayock. I just wrote a piece about Mike. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it. It's on oaklandnewsnow.com. I'll provide the link. I wish Mike very well. All I ask of Mike is that he understand that good ideas can come from anybody, regardless of race, creed, color, or sex. Because sometimes Mike had this tendency to be off-putting to people that he thinks don't belong, or he comes off this way. Maybe he doesn't mean to, okay? But I personally experienced it. I've written about it. And he comes off as if to say, you don't matter. Or like with Charles Davis, who's every bit the NFL draft prognosticator that Mayock is. Last NFL draft, Mayock's talking, or not talking. Mayock is actually looking through his notes and everything while Charles Davis is talking. But he had this pattern, Mayock did, of every time Charles Davis would say something, instead of looking at Charles Davis, he would look down and go through his notes. Now, by contrast, same telecast, same broadcast, same time frame, okay? If Mayock said something, Charles Davis gave Mayock his attention and his respect. Mayock acted the opposite. I thought maybe I was imagining things. Then I said, no, let me keep looking at this. And I did, and I chronicled it. And finally, I just said, you know what? Enough. I made a video. I put it out there. I said, hey, Mike, stop doing that, because it's wrong to treat people that way. So because his idea is he knows better, he gets the job because, hey, he's got this confidence of expression of intellect that works for him with the Raiders, and he has a relationship with Jon Gruden. And the Raiders under Mark Davis have this ethic that, hey, you know what? These guys who are aggressively who are aggressive about what they know in white are more prized than someone who's aggressive about what they know in black. That's the message the Raiders send them under Mark Davis, even if they don't want to. But that's the message they send. And they've got to work on that before it works against them. Mike has got to prove that he can handle contracts. He has to prove that he can work with players in hard situations. He has to prove that he has the ear of the organization and the respect of the people that work for him. Those are the areas that Mike has to work on, in my view, and it's going to be interesting to see how he does. I hope he does very well for the sake of the Raiders. I'll get you more comments here. But there you go, Dre. And then Z Kamar says, I think Reed is going to pick up Todd Bowles. That'll be a great hire. Rob Iman says, NFL needs to find its own Adam Silver to replace Goodell. I felt that Troy Vincent may very well be that person. And I think the problem with it, I'm not going to put this on Roger. I'm going to put this on the owners trying to assert themselves and go against Roger Goodell, who would not have this outcome. All right? It's very easy to think that the commissioner owns the owners and that the owners work for the commissioner. In point of fact, the commissioner serves at the pleasure of the owners. And Roger Goodell has the balancing act of trying to make all of these commissioners happy, play one faction off against the other, and so on, in order to maintain his job and keep the league a going concern for years to come. That's a tough balance. He happens to be working for a number of people who are, by where they put their money, staunchly Republican, and have, in some cases, the problems that we're talking about. However, there are a number, like Bob McNair, who have had no problem hiring brilliantly qualified African Americans to be by his side at the owners' meetings, run the organization, and move forward. Now, that said, even the Texans still have a long way to go from that perspective. But that brings me to another point. There's people, regardless of color, who so want to work for a sports organization that they'll move heaven and earth to get that job. So you might be working against somebody who's got a sports management degree, who's going to take the extra 2 or 3 nights and spend all-nighters making a type of a business plan of a type to present to a team to say, hey, look, here's what I'm going to do in my area of concern for your organization, showing that they took the time to do this. You have people who want to work for folks like Lee Steinberg, my friend's sports agent, who do this. They're students and they're by and large white. And my point is that if you're black and you want to go out there, you can't just say, hey, look, give me the job because I'm black. All right. And I'm just being blunt here. You have to compete for that job like nobody's business. And at the end of the day, do that extra thing that gets you the job that you think somebody else didn't do. Okay. Here's another example. Mike Silver. Mike Silver, when he got hired by Sports Illustrated, I remember how he did it. It was at a Super Bowl party. He was with the Marin Independent Journal. But I know Mike since Mike was 18. I was 22, both at Cal, right? Anyway, he basically met the editor of Sports Illustrated and got the guy drunk and got him laughing and everything and established a great rapport with him. And that's how he wound up with Sports Illustrated for a long, long time. But he didn't stop there. He befriended Dennis Rodman, and they went out drinking and partying together. And that's what led to a relationship that gave Sports Illustrated some of its most memorable pieces to write and books ever written about Dennis Rodman. So, you got to work it. You can't just want it. You got to work it even when you don't have it. Does that make sense? Okay. So, all right. So moving along, and that's the way that is. Okay. And so Rob Iman says most of the NFL owners are conservative, unfortunately. That's true. There's nothing wrong with that. But I remind you, there are a lot of black conservatives too. It's not like every time you talk to somebody black, that person's always a Democrat. They're Republicans too, and yet they still don't get the chance. So there's a race issue. Okay. Pro under pressure. Did Raiders hire Mayock so Gruden would have control? I think so. Yeah, I really do, because Mike Mayock is more of a draftnik. He's not your common GM guy. Noah Pecco says, do you think Wilkes ever had a chance in Glendale? To me, it didn't seem like it even after being hired in January and now fired. No, he didn't. And not only that, ask yourself this question. I mean, just bluntly, why is it that Steve Wilkes does so bad and gets fired, but Jon Gruden does so bad and nothing happens to him? Okay? Just putting that out there, folks. All right? Bill Walsh says NFL hired Mayock. Raiders are the NFL's team. Billy Blade says it's true Black Monday. All the brothers are being fired. Let's see if they get another job. Black Lion Supreme, how you doing, buddy? Says one love, Oakland Raider Nation. One love. Happy New Year. Dexman817 says all the black coaches get fired after they get a young QB. Lovey got same treatment with Winston. Great point. You know, that's a great point. That's a great point. You get a young quarterback and you turn him over to an offensive coordinator who's white, and yep, that's it. Wow, absolutely right. Rob Iman. Jed York is great at embracing social justice. Rob, I completely agree with you. Bison for life. No general managers are fired. Curious, very curious. John Marks, how you doing? Hey, congratulations on your new show on horror. Want to see more of it? Noah Pleco says thank you. I say thank you. Black Lion Supreme says LeBron James said it best about the owners of the NFL. He did, but I'm not sure that his statement helped anything. But it did actually, in a sense, crystallize the problem. Maybe we'll see. I think I cringed because it was uncomfortably true. You know, in terms of its look. I mean, it's kind of like, hey, look, you've got this bottle of water out here, right? Folks, it's a bottle of water. No, I don't want to see the water. Folks, this is LeBron. LeBron is saying, folks, this is a bottle of water. And we all, including myself, are saying, no, I don't want to see the water. And LeBron is saying, folks, this is a bottle of water. That's the situation. Bison for Life says, time for David Shaw to leave Stanford for the NFL. No. Dave Shaw leaving Stanford for the NFL. How's the Cardinal doing, by the way? Clips from Cross says Gruden has a history with his team. It's not the same as Wilkes' situation. Joe Philbin got the axe too quickly a few years ago. But my point is, clips from Carl, having a history means that you should do better. I'm not buying that. And the reason I am is because to me, that's a manufactured excuse. All right? Okay, you have a history with this team. Fine. I mean, but Wilkes has a history in the NFL. You can make up all kinds of statements. The bottom line is Wilkes didn't get a shot. He didn't get one more year. Now, did something happen in terms of him pissing somebody off? If that's the case, no one is talking. But look, he didn't get one more year. And this happened before. I remember it happened with Ray Rhodes. Ray Rhodes got 1 year. He went 8-8. Ray Rhodes went 8-8 with the Green Bay Packers. He got 1 year and was fired. All right? And that was very obviously because he was black. So, but then everyone has all these excuses. Come on, look. It's the mentality of a person's out there saying, hey, look, let's find an excuse to cover up the fact that we are not comfortable seeing someone black in a position of power or authority. And that includes a lot of black folks too. I'm not saying it's just like a white problem. It's a social problem. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. This was first of all, take a look at President Obama and then take a look at how Tavis Smiley went and attacked him, acting like he was jealous of a black president. Look at how Kanye West treated him. I mean, you can pick out a number of examples in society. I remember walking into a McDonald's in the south side of Chicago. This is 1978. And you like to think times have changed, but I'm saying that times haven't changed that much. A fellow walked in and said, I want to see a manager. Black guy says, I want to see a manager. Manager steps out, black African-American man. He says, no, you're not the manager. I want to see the white guy. He was the manager. You see what I'm talking about? So we have to address this problem overall and stop saying, well, gee, that's the way we count because of slave days. I'm sorry. That was hundreds of years ago. This is today. We have to move forward and knock all this stuff off. Billy Blade says, why would Shaw leave Stanford only to get fired? Thank you. He's making great money there. like $2.23 million. John Mark says, thank you, Zinni. I'm just promoting Creature Features YouTube channel with live chat. I want to check that out. Eden Maggie Santos says, Eric Bieniemy, offensive coordinator, Kansas City, will probably get offers. Hopefully, I agree. Jay Boogie, how you doing? Jay Boogie says that it seems that black coaches and quarterbacks have to be exceptional to keep their jobs in the NFL because we don't fit the owner's profile of a coach or quarterback. Right. It's the old saw of you have to be 3 times better, which is ridiculous. But as Deckman says, Jay Boogie, you're absolutely right. Bison for Life says, I noticed the same with black general managers. Where is Jerry Reese now? Right. And someone brings up Jerry. I brought up Jerry Reese. Someone else did, and someone says, well, I don't want him coaching. The dude's got 2 rings. What do you mean? Okay. Why not? And Max Bird says, I understand where you're coming from. Thank you. Black Lion says, one love. John Mark says, something, brother. Dexman says, Jimmy G got paid based on 7 games, yet they felt like Winston is not it when he has passed for the 2nd most touchdowns before 25 years in NFL history. Yeah. I mean, it's this constant narrative, like from, announcers trying to find every little thing that he does wrong and then hesitantly praising him or not praising him at all when Jameis Winston has a Buffalo breakout game. Okay. Yeah. Look, there's been a narrative about Jameis that he has fueled to a little bit, but like he's 2/10 of it is his fault. The other 8/10 is society. Okay. I mean, I've talked about that a long time. There are people in Tampa who are very aware of who I am. I found that out the last NFL annual meeting. Great. But there was a problem there. Rob Iman says, I see our Bieniemy going to the Packers. Rick Gray, how you doing, Rick? Rick says, Mike Mayock, another TV guy to the Raiders? What is wrong with this organization? Rachel McKenzie had draft misses and coaching misses, but had the pedigree to do the job. Agreed. Rob Iman says, I hope Chris Greer can make the right hire in Miami. John Mark says, Mike Mayock may be a great hire, but let the guy perform. All the Raider fans think he's the next great GM. Not all the Raider fans. I've looked at social media, and a lot of people are kind of thinking, hey, look, I hope Mike does a great job, but as I've written, I'll put up right now what I wrote, and you can have a gander at it when you have an opportunity, okay? But and then you draw your conclusions from what I wrote. But again, I said this, and I say again, I hope Mike understands that a good idea can come from anyone, anywhere, at any time. To have his eyes, ears, and most of all his mind open. That's what that is what I hope Mike does. Okay. Now, I am right now getting to you. Here we go. And there that is. Let's see here. There it is. Mayock. Boom. Right there. Okay. And so Black Lion says, I hope Mike does a great job. Bison for Life says, what's interesting is where's Power 5 college football, the number of black college coaches is going down. It is. John Lynch's record is mixed as far as GM vary. Kara Nicole Robinson, welcome. Kara says, I wonder if there's a hidden quota the owners have silently established behind closed doors for coaches and GMs. Kara, that's a great question and a great take. And it would seem that's the case. Because, and again, it goes back to a comment that I made earlier before your arrival. I'm glad you're here, where I observed that I felt the NFL was trying not to look like the NBA. And you have the vast majority of owners are Republican. And you take a look at the expenditures for where they put their money in terms of campaigns. Look at where people like, Woody Johnson, the owner of the Jets, he was ambassador to Ireland for President Trump, still is, I believe. You can look at the exceptions to the rule, the Rooneys, right? You had Dan Rooney, who was the ambassador to Ireland under President Obama, okay? So, but that's the exception to the NFL rule. If you take a look at the political expenditures for NFL owners, it is overwhelmingly Republican. So, and Bob, the late Bob McNair spent big time, or as President Trump would say, bigly, on President Trump's election, even inauguration. So, so hey, look, who was it that Mark Davis was seen going down to Southern California to go to Clippers games with? Donald Sterling. Donald Sterling. And yet the media never called him on it and never asked him about it. Okay? Check it out for yourself. So this is laid bare before us, and we're asked to evaluate it, and that's where we're at. And so, Kara, there you are. Jordan Scott says, I don't care if Ryan Fitzpatrick is staying on the Bucs as Winston's backup quarterback. Okay. Rob Ivan says, Mayock is similar to John Lynch, in my opinion, as of right now. I don't see them as the same, because I remember John Lynch as a player as much as I remember him as a broadcaster, because as a loyal Cal Golden Bear Old Blue, I remember when Lynch was safety against us, okay? And that was recent. So I see Lynch as kind of in between. Mayock I see as more of a draft nick. I don't see him that way. But I understand how you might, though, okay? I don't see him that way. Dre Perkins says, you made a good point. Raiders are going pretty much all Republican, sorry to say. Dre Perkins says, and you know what Gruden thinks about politics. Yeah, that's a great point. Jon Gruden is not just a Republican, he is a fundraising Republican. But to John's credit, Jon is a Republican in name only. If you look at it from political critic and online friendly nemesis of mine, Michelle Malkin, we go back years, who, well, I don't want to get off the track, but the basic point is that Jon has supported the candidacy for city council in Tampa of an African-American woman who went from nowhere to losing by not too many votes. She got 65,000 votes. And Jon Gruden and his wife, Cindy, heavily backed her, okay? But she was also a Republican. So, again, Jon Gruden is about diversifying the Republican Party. And but although in fairness, I have to admit I haven't had a chance to really sit and talk with him about that aspect of life. I think it'll be a fun conversation. Jordan Scott says, I said I don't know, don't care. Gotcha. Jordan Scott says, is Fitzpatrick going to sign on another team? I don't know yet. I would say this, however, I think Ryan has done very well for the Bucs, but I really think right now the best thing to do is to just wait and see who the Bucs pick as coach and what kind of system that person brings with them. All right. I think personally, if I were running the Bucs, I would already have in mind the kind of system I wanted and where we go from there. I am Brian Rackpold, by the way, just announced his retirement from the National Football League. I am very disappointed with this idea of firing a coach without having a clear idea what you want in place and then going for it like that. And I might say a clear idea. I don't mean a person. I mean a structure, a business plan. Tell me how the organization, how you see the organization being ran, and the template of person. I don't mean color either. I mean in terms of approach, system, managerial, organizational habits, philosophy. What kind of person do you see moving your team forward? If you can articulate that as an owner, then I think you know what you're doing. If you can't, I don't think you do. Now, Jordan, let's see here. Rob Iman says Fitzpatrick is done in the NFL. I'm not ready to count him out. Iron White says, what happens to the Coliseum in the next 5 years? Demolition? No. Rob Iman says, I also see Josh McCown retiring. John Marks says, hire Zinni as the next general manager. I would love to be the chief administrative officer of the team. President. I'd love that job. Not necessarily GM, president of the president. Just put me in as a guy who understands football, who's the president of the company. I'd love that. That is the job I want. I want John Elway's job. Seriously. And so Black Lion says the Jets coach should not have been fired. Rob Iman says, I've heard something about the Coliseum being kept to something similar like to Keys or San Francisco. No, you're thinking about the stadium side and the A's plan to essentially flatten it. It's just an idea. All right. It hasn't gone the necessary community scrutiny. Even the A's are not really married to the idea. It is obviously a placeholder take, if you will. Okay. And so I would definitely say it's a take. Okay. And I would also say that as far as the A's idea, all right, and as far as the A's idea, basically, we have a place where the A's have expressed their desire for the land. We know why they need it for additional development, but they haven't really laid out. If you take a look at the A's plan, it doesn't really, let me take the really out of my sentence. It does not present the necessary layout or square footage to throw off revenue to achieve its objective. Okay. And the city should be aware of that, the city of Oakland, and concerned about it. It's not there. Okay. And so Bison for Life says Jay Gruden should have been fired by my skins. There you go. I agree with you. And Rob Iman says, I've also heard rumors about the Coliseum being rebuilt as a soccer stadium. It needs to be that. It needs to be both soccer and football. And Rick Gray says Raiders are a joke. Okay. Nicole Robinson says, it seems that the NFL owns the Raiders. So to get hired, you have to fit the NFL's vision for future Raiders. John was bought, now owned, in my opinion. Kara, 2 weeks ago, I would have disagreed with you, but now, given some events that are about to happen, I find it difficult to disagree with you. I'll just say it like that. Okay. John, you're not on a timeout. No, not at all. I don't know where you got the idea that you were. Rob Iman says retaining Jay Gruden was the right move. I have nothing against Jay Gruden. I'm just simply saying, let's take a look at what Jay Gruden's Gruden record. What is his record? Jay Gruden's Tampa Bay record is he is 35, 43, and 1. Okay? He is 35, 43. No, excuse me. He's 35, 44, and 1. He has a .444 record. He has started off 4-12, then 9-7, 8-7, 7-9, and 7-9. So he is in that territory. He's in Mike Tomlin territory. Okay. With a catch. He needs to Tomlin. Well, that's not fair to Mike Tomlin. I mean, you can make a case. He's really on the bubble. I mean, logically, this next year should be the make or break year for Jay Gruden. It's either you get us to the playoffs or we search for a new coach. But I would say that's this year coming up because it's difficult to argue that the Redskins have not been competitive. The Redskins have been competitive. But for a miss here or an injury there, that 7-9 would have been a 9-7 or better. So I'm not comfortable with the idea of firing Jay Gruden. That's just me right now. There that is. Okay. There that is. I also happen to like Jay Gruden as offensive innovator. Now, we got Dexman says Dirk Carter got fired for drinking the Fitzgerald Kool-Aid and media's Kool-Aid. Benching Winston after the Bengals game was the beginning and the end. Cam and Jeff threw 4 interceptions in the game. They're way behind. The Bengals game, they had an awful game plan with that one. And I thought that was the beginning of the end for me because Dirk Carter should have been ashamed for greenlighting a game plan that had no adjustments for the clamp down defense, basically that man for man that and short zones that the Bengals had thrown at them, asking Jameis Winston to throw over the heads of Bengals defenders in order to get a receiver to catch it. And it's obvious the receiver, couldn't do it, and he's stuck. Jameis' weakness is he doesn't want to get sacked. But you don't put him in a position where he fears getting sacked. And that's what Dirk's offense did more often than not. Okay? And so he turns around and winds up blaming Jameis for interceptions that are the design of his scheme. And someone say, oh, that's not true. Fitzpatrick is better. I said, no, he isn't. He's going to get in there. The team has a book on what they're doing. He's going to throw the same number of interceptions. And guess what? That's exactly what happened. So it's the scheme. The scheme was not right for Jameis in terms of being an efficient ball handler. That's Dirk's fault. Jameis doesn't draw those plays up in the dirt. That's Dirk's fault. And look, he's not where Jameis is saying, well, you know what? I want you to run this offense or else. The player today should have that mentality, but doesn't. We don't have Joe Montanas on the field that'll say, oh, the old man is nuts, so we're not going to run that play. We're talking about Bill Walsh. We're going to run this play, okay? That's what a veteran does when the veteran has the intellectual freedom to do that. Jameis Winston wasn't given the intellectual freedom to do that. And I maintain today that if Jameis Winston was given the intellectual freedom to be that person, all this off-the-field stuff, and it's already starting to go away for other reasons, but it would have gone away a long time ago. They just gave him the keys and let him drive the car. Let him use his brain. He's intellectually frustrated, and you can see it. He's a smart guy. But society's own issues, as reflected through the Bucs, are holding him back. So, hey, get a secure coach that can unleash him. He'll take over the league. Trust me, okay? Rick Gray says, Oakland Coliseum site, nothing happening to stadium for the last 5 years. Ace still playing there until Howard Terminal and Rival Impact Toxic Cleanup Gondola, all very iffy. Disagree. All happening, Ray. All happening. I don't know why you think it's iffy. That stadium is going to get built, pal. Like it or not, that stadium is going to get built. John Mark says, could Derek Carr fit in Redskins scheme if Raiders gave up on him? Yes. I think he would excel. Rob Iman says, I think the Broncos will hire Gary Kubiak for a second tenure. I worry about Gary's health. I certainly hope not. John Marks asked Rick Gray to give Howard Terminal a chance. Dexman says, Dexman just wrote the comment of this episode, this event. He writes, Dexman 817, Winston needs a running back too. Yes, and that's why I thought the Bucs were going to go after Saquon Barkley. If I were Jason Light, I would say, hey, you know what? Forget the lower rounds. I'm going to trade up to number one. I'm going to get Saquon Barkley, and I'm going to march to the playoffs because I've got Barkley. I've got Winston. I'm going to then trade up and get Vita Vea. I'll get my defensive tackle. I'm going to, get some lower round picks. I'm going to sign some free agents, undrafted free agents. And you know what? I'm going to call it a day because I've got Saquon and Barkley. They would have marched in the playoffs that way. All right. Now, having said that, I will say this. The Bucs had a bevy of fantastic rookie defensive backs they picked up in the lower rounds that really drove their defense to improvement, especially when they shifted defensive coordinators and slightly philosophy, okay? That was a great thing. But I contend that they needed, if they had that Saquon and Barkley type running back, that ball control would essentially bought them more wins, if you will, than a defensive back, the defensive backs they got in the lower rounds, all right? Joseph Amendaris, how are you? Happy New Year. Says, hey, Zenny, I think it's just tuned in, speaking about Black Monday. Any news from the Raiders getting rid of any of the coaches, specifically Cable? I haven't seen anything yet. I'll double check in a second. The Raider critique says only 30 what? Dexman X17 says, do you think Kareem Hunt will get another chance in the NFL? Yes, I do. Rob Iman says, but it'll be a few years. You need to let this blow over. I think Kareem, I still want to know more about that situation because that seems completely different from the Ray Rice situation. I mean, you watch that video, there were a lot of people there throwing punches. and there's a lot of unruly behavior, and I would like to see that totally fleshed out. I want to know exactly what happened if I'm in charge to know that sort of thing. Radio Critique says, you were never a fan of the Raiders and you censor anyone who has a different opinion. Wait a minute. I'll tell you what. I don't censor anyone who has a different opinion, but since you think that, I'll just censor you. How's that? Bye. Ugh. I mean, why not just say something about the team rather than being personal? That's stupid. And a guy's not even using his name and expects me to allow that, and he's sitting there. So, hey, if you want me to treat you that way, guess what? I just did. It's ridiculous. Say something about the team. You don't have to agree with me. All these folks don't agree with me about things at all. It's ridiculous. Man, I don't believe it. Anyway, John Mark says, I'm hoping to promote Howard Terminal with the A's. Need to give Dave Cavall a call. Got it. John Davis says, well, Marvin Lewis, go. Let me think about that one. Rinsenberg says, thoughts on Mayock. Hey, by the way, here are my thoughts on Mayock. I expressed in that link right there, Winston. I wish Mike Mayock very well. I hope he listens to people and realizes that good ideas can come from any station in life. John Marks likes Mayock as a choice. I think Louis Riddick would have been better, but I wish Mike Mayock well. Rob Iman says he may be a consultant for Mike Brown, talking about Marvin Lewis. And let's see here. Rick Gray says, why can't Bart figure out why they call the figure out a platform and stairs between Merritt and... Hey, Rick, can you rewrite? I don't understand that one. You say, why can't Bart figure out why they call the figure out a platform and... I'm getting a headache just trying to read that one, Rick. You have to help me out there, pal. Bison for Life says, how soon will Raiders Stadium in Vegas get the Super Bowl? Well, oh, no, Rick, I understand. I would say we got to wrap this up by next year. The next slot open is 2025. So you say logically that should be theirs. If it's not, that's a clear signal that we've got a problem. It looks like the stadium is behind schedule right now. We've got a problem. So John Marks thinks it's 24 and 25. I am not so optimistic. I think the test case is going to be the NFL draft. We'll see how it does there. Black Lion says it's not happening at all. There is a reason they haven't been awarded it yet, okay? There is a reason. All right? There is a reason. So, good water. This is Nestle Pure Life. It's not Deer Park, by the way. Nestle Pure Life. Hey, what are your New Year's resolutions coming up? Since I'm out here, before I wrap this up, I'm going to be on here another 10 minutes. Bison for Life says, Bama or Clemson? Bama. Even though I had my buddy on AP Stidham last night, I'm not going to... God, that's going to be a hard one, isn't it? John Marks says, are your live streams going to be on early in 2019? All right, wait a minute, John Marks, is this your way of saying that they should be? Is that just be honest? Are you saying, doggone it, I want earlier live streams any? Just let me know. All right. Rob Iman says, my New Year's resolution is good health. John Marks says, Bama baby. Landlord says, if you remember All-Star Weekend in Vegas, then you know why the Super Bowl won't be there. Oh! I've been waiting for that All-Star blast for a long, long time. And now we finally got it. Thank you very much, Landlord 84. What he's talking about is that when the NBA had its All-Star game there, it was negative party city. It was party over here, mess up over here, gun over here. I mean, it was, not the greatest. Don't drink and drive tonight, folks, by the way. Rick Gray says, no BART at Howard Terminal. So A's explore gondola idea. Why can't BART build a station between Lake Merritt and West Oakland? All needed platforms and stairs. How much cost? BART says undealable. I say you don't need it. I don't want it. Because what I want people to get off at 12th Street, Oakland City Center, okay, and walk early on and walk down Broadway and spend money at the stores and every place and, circulate money in the community on the way to the A's Stadium. I want the A's Stadium to be to Oakland what the Cinderella's Castle is to Disney World. It's the carrot at the end of the stick, the place you want to go to, but you got to go through Main Street, USA to get there, right? That's what I want. All this talk about BART extending, I'm like, you know what? Forget it. Yeah, as Rob Iman says, AC Transit should, quote, bridge the gap. Yeah, have AC Transit run buses down there, have special services for the elderly. I think I'm really sensitive to that since my mom is 84. And I've got to wrap this up and go check on her. John Davis, you're the second person to ask me about Mike Mayock and the Raiders. That's my thought right there. That link. And I'll say in short form, what I've said there in long form is that I have a history of Mike Mayock that goes way back in the NFL draft, and I want Mike to understand how to listen to people and listen to ideas and focus on ideas and realize that good ideas can come from any place and any person, regardless of race or sex. Rob Iman says, I'll be visiting the Hollywood Park Stadium site in Inglewood in May. Hey, video, please. And Max Bird says, I just want, before I leave this planet, the Jets to get it together. Word. John Mark says, Happy New Year, everybody. Remember, watch horror films. Keep America strong. Keep America strong. Hey, John Marks, what's your favorite horror movie? And by the way, are you looking forward to Glass? The Glass movie with Samuel L. Jackson, Bruce Willis, James McAvoy, and cast of that's embarrassing. Come on, get your act together, Zenny. I'm writing Glass movie cast because my brain just went off. James McAvoy, Anna Taylor-Joy, Bruce Willis, Samuel L. Jackson, Spencer Treat Clark, Sarah Paulson, Shailene Woodard, and Raul Torres. That's the cast of the upcoming January 19th, actually January 18th movie Glass. And no, I didn't get paid to make that plug for those of you who might be watching and thinking, he got paid. There are some people like that. Anyway, Black Lion Supreme says, watch Bird Box. Yeah, everybody's talking about Bird Box on Netflix. Rick Gray says, A's say that's why they need gondolas because of distance. Got it. My main worry about Howard Terminal cost A's announced is too low. Plus, I'm worried about associated costs for cleanup. John Mark says, you need to watch The Werewolf of London, Zinni. Okay. As far as the A's and the gondola situation, I really believe that, as Rob Iman said, AC Transit can fill the gap. And I really think that what the A's are doing needs to be part of an overall process of economic and development and planning that includes the Broadway corridor. That's not part of the discussion is an example of where the city of Oakland needs to improve in terms of its economic development staff and what they do. And so Black Lion says, a new horror film from the maker of Get Out called Us. Yes. Awesome trailer for Us. Eric Young. How you doing, Eric? Eric says, what would really be nice is for AC Transit to have light rail service down all the major corridors like Muni, which will also go to the new Howard Terminal site. I like that's, I'm really of the opinion we don't need to spend that money. And I'm really of the view that we need to work on ways of dragging people from 12th Street BART down and really thinking about that entire corridor as it leads down to where the A's Stadium is going to be. We should think of that as a whole coordinated system, which really it is. It's just uncoordinated right now. John Mark says, oops, I mean Werewolf of London. Got it. London. Eric Young says key system. I know I get what you're saying. I'm thinking dollar cost and necessity. In other words, the bang for the buck. Do we really need all that? No. John Davis says, if you had to remove one assistant coach from the Raiders, who would it be? My choice would be Tom Cable. No. I actually think you're going to be shocked. I think Tom Cable's done a fine job. I think the problem is the scheme, okay? The problem is the scheme and what Jon Gruden is asking them to do. I am not a big fan. I don't like to suggest people get fired, but look, I'm not a big fan of Greg Olson. And, okay, and I think that Olson, needs to be replaced by a guy like a Pep Hamilton. But the Raiders, regardless of person, all right, and focusing more on engineering, okay, the Raiders need to focus on conducting time motion studies of their offense with respect to speed. The Raiders' offense reflects a lack of understanding of the impact of speed and distance, okay? Speed and speed and spacing. Speed and spacing. They've gotten better in terms of widening their line spacing and using line spacing to control a defense, all right? But football is really human engineering. But a lot of teams have personnel running the same formations in terms of spacing that were ran in the 60s and 70s. The people are faster on defense. And so basically you're going to line up with the same offensive spacing as someone used in 1960s and 70s. That's stupido. Okay, that's stupid stuff. All right. Great idea, Rick Gray. Yep. Oh, Rick Gray says, do you think Dave Cavall can I get him? Do you know urban development? I'd like to ask him some points. I'll ask Dave, he'll come on. It's a great idea, Rick. And I will try. Black Lion says, I can't evaluate anyone on the staff after what Davis did to the team before the season even started. Let's see what happens next year. With that, folks, I am going to bid you farewell right now. I may be back later. I'm going to say, ML Scott just arrived. He goes, I thought we had a surprise caller calling like Misty March's neighborhood. I'll keep that in mind. Black, I got to run, man. God love you all. Thank you all for being fantastic people. God bless you all. God bless the United States of America and the world. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. I'll see you all later. Might come on later. Happy New Year, everybody. Okay, see ya. And watch horror films. Keep America strong. Good day, John Mark. See you. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Noah. Happy New Year, everybody. See ya.